Hey gang, and welcome back to another EDH gameplay. This week marks my first ever 4-player game that I was able to record. Our heroes this week are me, playing Meren of Clan Neltoth, Adam, playing Derevi Imperial Tactician, Kevin, playing Grand Arbiter Augustin IV, and Brian, playing Rafiq of the Many. For my opening hand, I kept 2 swamps, 1 forest, a victimized, demonic tutor, ghost quarter, and bottomless pit. Adam kept Birds of Paradise, Enlightened Tutor, Windswept Heath, Kadama's Reach, Arid Mesa, Rhystic Study, and Skyshroud Claim. Kevin's opener had Mystic Gate, Tundra, Island, Pact of Negation, Jace Beleren, Dissipation Field, and Iona. Brian kept a hand with an Island, Bear Umbra, Secure Tribe Elder, Soul Ring, Fencer, Grand Abolisher, and Progenitor Mimic. I win the die roll, so let's see how it unfolds. Our first turns are pretty uneventful. I play a Swamp, Brian plays a Hollowed Fountain tapped, Kevin plays a Tundra, and then Adam comes along. Dropping an Arid Mesa, he takes 1 and finds Savannah to play Birds of Paradise. Following Adam's example, I play a Forest and cast Elves of the Deep Shadow before passing turn. On Brian's turn, he drops an Exotic Orchard and plays Soul Ring before passing. With nothing fancy in hand, Kevin plays High Market and passes. Adam plays Marsh Flats, paying 1 to go find Tundra, and then casts Kadama's Reach, finding an island to the field and a plains to his hand. My turn sees Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, or Urbergamurg Tomb of Ybergamurg, as I like to call it, hit the field. I follow that up by casting Bottomless Pit and swinging at Adam with Elves of Deep Shadow for 1. On Brian's upkeep, he pitches Progenitor Mimic, and then follows up his main phase by playing an island and casting Rafiq of the Many. On his upkeep, Kevin pitches Dissipation Field before going to his main phase. He drops an island and casts Jace Beleren, selfishly using his minus ability to make himself only draw a card, not give everyone a card. Rude. Adam loses Skyshroud Claim to Bottomless Pit. As if Derevi isn't enough of a threat, Adam drops Rhystic Study and passes his turn. On my upkeep, Bottomless Pit makes me pitch Ghost Quarter. For my land, I play a Bloodstained Mire, fetching an Overgrown Tomb and taking 3. Paying 4 mana for a Fleshbag Marauder so that Rhystic Study can't give him a card, I make Adam and Brian sacrifice their creatures. In response to Fleshbag's trigger, Adam floats a mana with Birds of Paradise to cast Enlightened Tutor, finding Aura Shards. To really rub salt in the wound, I attack Adam with Elves again for 1. Brian loses Bear Umbra to Bottomless Pit and plays Academy Ruins for his land. He then plays Secure Tribe Elder, finding a forest and passes turn. On his upkeep, Kevin loses Unexpectedly Absent. He plays Mystic Gate and selfishly draws with Jace again. As if that weren't bad enough, he follows that up by playing Grand Arbiter Augustin IV, making us all have to pay more for our spells. To make matters even worse, he doesn't pay the extra mana and Adam gets to draw a card. On Adam's upkeep, Bottomless Pit claims another victim, this time Swords to Plowshares. For his main phase, Adam plays High Market and then has to pay 4 to cast Aura Shards. On my turn, Bottomless Pit hits Demonic Tutor, which is not a great thing for me. For my land, I play Ancient Tomb, taking 2 of it and tapping out essentially to cast Meren for 6. Making sure to spread the love around, I attack Brian with the Elf. On his upkeep, Bottomless Pit eats another card from Brian's hand. Once again, Brian taps out for Rafiq of the Many, hoping that he'll be able to swing at least once before Rafiq dies. Like every other turn before it, Kevin loses a card on his upkeep, but I didn't really quite catch it, so it's a mystery card. He follows that up by being unconventionally nice and makes us all draw a card with Jace. What are you planning, Kevin? He plays Mystifying Maze for his land for turn, and like most control players having drawn and played a land, he passes his turn. On his upkeep, Adam loses Bloom Tender, which actually provides the deck with a lot of mana when used in conjunction with Derevi's triggers. He plays Windswept Heath and cracks it, taking 1 to go find a land. He then follows that up with an Archangel of Thune, which when he enters the battlefield triggers Aura Shards, blowing up Brian's Soul Ring, not my Bottomless Pit, oddly enough. On my upkeep, Bottomless Pit has outworn its welcome and costs me Victimize. During my main phase, I play a Forest and then pay 6 to cast Smokestack. These stacks effects are getting out of control. Sick of Kevin having all the fun, I swing Meren at Jace to kill him. Brian drops a Plains and then plays Venser, using his -2 ability to make his creatures unblockable. He smashes into Adam, dealing 8 commander damage. He passes turn, but Kevin responds by casting Fact or Fiction, paying the additional 1 for Rhystic Study. Kevin chooses me to divide them up into piles, and I give him a pile with Austere Command and an island, and some other cards in the 3 pile which I can't remember. Kevin takes the bigger pile. Kevin hits his land for turn, and then follows up with a main phase Return to Dust, exiling Bottomless Pit and Smokestack. On his turn, Adam plays a Polluted Delta, then casts Derevi, having to pay 4, but untaps one of them thanks to the trigger. With Derevi hitting the field, Orishard also has the chance to trigger, but Adam chooses not to use it. He swings Archangel at Brian's Venser, killing it and gaining 3 life, and then putting a 1/1 counter on his entire team. Adam ends his turn by cracking Polluted Delta to go find a land. During my main phase, I decide to get some new toys since Kevin took all of mine and cast Contamination. Kevin doesn't let me do that. Paying the 1 extra to Ristic Study, Kevin hinders it to the bottom of my library. I follow that up by trying to cast Jorga Tree Speakers, but you may notice that I've tapped my mana wrong. There's a bit of a mix-up, and I took 2 from Ancient Tomb, but I tapped the Elves of Deep Shadow instead of the Forest. For his turn, Brian drops a land, then casts Grafted Exoskeleton, attaching it to Rafiq so that he can hopefully blow someone out with infect damage. Brian directs the Rafiq Pain Train at Adam again, but he just blocks him with Derevi. Kevin draws for his turn, doesn't play a land, and passes to Adam. Using what he claims to be a fair activated ability, Adam brings Derevi to the field. He uses the Orishard's trigger to kill the Grafted Exoskeleton, which causes Rafiq to die. Oof, sorry Brian. Because Adam likes value, he gets to use Derevi's trigger to tap Mystifying Maze. During his main phase, he plays Misty Rainforest and Viden of Thassa. He swings Archangel of Thune at Brian and Derevi at Kevin. Kevin responds by flashing in Vendilion Click, looking at his own hand and cycling a card to the bottom to draw. He throws Vendilion Click in the way of Adam, killing Derevi. Brian takes 4 and Adam gains 4. End his turn, he cracks Misty Rainforest, taking 1 to go find a land. I draw nothing of importance and level up Jorga Tree Speaker. I move to combat and swing at Kevin for 3. Brian draws another land, and with no hand, taps out to cast Rafiq again. Adam starts to get kinda mad that he spent 3 mana for Ristic Study and no one's let him draw. As if to rub it in Brian's face, Kevin casts Muldrifter, drawing 2 more cards. To what I'm sure is no one's surprise, at the end of Kevin's turn, Adam activates Derevi's ability. He uses the Derevi trigger to tap down Muldrifter. On his main phase, Adam pays 2 for Soul Ring, which begs the question, is Soul Ring as good if you have to pay 2 for it? He drops Sylvan Library using the colorless from the Soul Ring and 1 green. Moving to combat, he swings Derevi at me and Archangel of Thune at Brian, because Archangel knows where Brian is. He draws 2 cards and untaps 2 lands. Yet again, my draw proves to be lackluster, so I move straight to combat, swinging Meren at Adam for 3. Brian draws and casts Imperial Plate, which gives whatever creatures equipped to it +1/+1 for however many cards he has in his hand, which at this point is 0. He cracks his Bant Panorama to go find a basic. At the beginning of the combat step, Adam sacrifices Derevi to High Market, gaining 1 life, and then recasts it to tap Rafiq before Brian can declare him as an attacker. Unfortunately, the camera doesn't show it, but Kevin draws a Terminus. He casts it, making all of our creatures go to the bottom of our libraries. He plays Seregi Refuge, or whatever you want to call it, and gains 1 life. Not wanting the field to be totally empty, Kevin plays Grand Abolisher. He then casts Loxodon Gatekeeper, allowing Adam to draw 1 off Ristic Study. Seeing an opportunity to refill his hand, Adam takes an additional 4 off Sylvan Library to draw an extra card. He plays Diamond Valley, which comes into play tapped. He then casts Forgotten Ancient, which also comes into play tapped. Rounding on his turn, he casts Reconnaissance, and forgets to put the Forgotten Ancient counter on until later. My turn is pretty uneventful. I play a tapped Volrath Stronghold and pass. With nothing better to do on his turn, Brian taps out yet again to cast Rafiq, who comes into play tapped. During Kevin's main phase, he pays 6 for Karmic Guide to return Iona. He names blue mostly to stop Adam from getting too out of control. Having done his best to stop Adam, Kevin passes, but Adam isn't finished yet. At the end of turn, he uses the activated ability to bring Derevi in, tapping down Iona. He also blows up Imperial Plate, which really hasn't done anything for Brian anyway, so it's not a big deal. Using Sylvan Library's ability, Adam once again takes 4, keeping an extra card. In his first main phase, Adam tries to cast True Conviction, but it's quickly met by a Pact of Negation from Kevin. They forget about the Ristic Study trigger until Adam remembers, and Kevin pays the 1. He swings both of his creatures at Kevin. Kevin throws Karmic Guide in front of Forgotten Ancient, taking 2 from Derevi. In response to Derevi's untapped trigger, Adam uses Reconnaissance to untap both of his creatures. For my turn, I play a Swamp, and then activate Volrath Stronghold to put Fleshbag Marauder back on top of my library. Brian continues his trend of drawing nothing. He plays an island and debates over who he should attack. He comes to the conclusion that no one's really that threatening other than Adam, but he can't get through it, so he passes to Kevin. On Kevin's turn, he's severely neutered due to the 5 mana upkeep cost of Pact of Negation. Kevin follows Brian's example, playing a land and passes. On Kevin's end step, Adam sacrifices Derevi to Diamond Valley, gaining 3 life, and then uses his activated ability to bring him back for 4. He untaps one of his lands to cast Aven Mind Sensor, denying us the ability to tutor for things. Keeping the gravy train coming, Adam keeps 1 card and takes 4 from Sylvan Library. During his main phase, he casts Increasing Savagery on the Aven Mind Sensor, giving it 5/1/1 counters and giving his Forgotten Ancient an additional counter. He moves to combat, sending Derevi at me and his 2 other creatures at Kevin. I take 2 damage from Derevi, and Kevin takes 7 from Avon Mind Sensor, blocking Forgotten Ancient with his Grand Abolisher. Following a similar pattern to the turn before, he untaps his creatures with Reconnaissance, draws a bunch of cards, and uses his triggers to untap lands. He starts his second main phase by casting Nim Deathmantle. Starting to see the writing on the wall, I cast Meren and take 2 from Ancient Tomb, and then cast Fleshbag Marauder to force everyone to sack a creature. I gain an experience counter, and Adam draws 2 cards since I didn't pay 1 for each of the spells. At the end of my turn, I return Fleshbag Marauder to my hand. With nothing to do on his turn, Brian passes to Kevin. With all hope lying on Kevin's shoulders, he plays an island, and then passes turn. At the end of Kevin's turn, Adam decides to get a bit tricky, flashing in Derevi. He uses Derevi to untap Sol Ring. Holding priority as the Sol Ring untaps, he sacrifices Derevi to Diamond Valley, gaining 3 life. He then uses Nim Deathmantle to bring back Derevi with a +2/+2 equipment attached to it. With Derevi entering the battlefield again, he taps down Iona. At this point it becomes very clear that Adam's out of control and there's very little that we can do to stop him, and the 3 of us decide to scoop. To recap the game, I think it's pretty fair to say that Derevi is one of the most disgusting commanders in Bant. Despite numerous setbacks including Bottomless Pit eating his hand, Iona naming blue, and Terminus putting all of his creatures on the bottom, Adam was still able to fight through 3 other players to kill us. It didn't help that Brian wasn't really in the game, having drawn so many lands and losing so many important cards to Bottomless Pit. Kevin's game was quite strong, but he couldn't carry the 3 of us on his back just against Derevi. What hurt me the most was when Demonic Tutor was pitched to Bottomless Pit. I had intended on using it to find card draw, but I think you all know how that worked out for me. Well gang, that was my next gameplay with 4 players. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to filming more with this new camera, and hopefully you guys will be able to check them out. Thanks for watching!